Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Melanie Cassar, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Captain Nick Tate. We warmly welcome the family of Private Joseph Turner and Private Simon Henry Turner, whose stories will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Club Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem.
Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are one and free, with golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is good by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. Enjoy home strange, then let us sing. Advance Australia fair.
If able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just two of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Simon Henry Turner and Private Joseph Turner. Simon Turner, known as Sam, was born on the 2nd of April 1887 in the town of Midlingbank in New South Wales. When he was 4 years old, on the 30th of July 1891, his younger brother Joseph was born. Sam and Joseph grew up in the Snowy Mountains in the large family of 11 children born to farm labourer Edward Turner and his wife Martha. Sam and Joseph were educated at the local public school in Midlingbank and were keen sportsmen, playing on the football team in the nearby Adaminaby. At the outbreak of the First World War, Sam was working as a miner and Joseph was working as a labourer at the Corrington sheep station near Cooma. Sam enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 16th of January 1916 and was allocated to the 55th Battalion alongside many other recruits from the Snowy Mountains. A few months later, in April 1916, Joseph enlisted and was also assigned to the 55th Battalion. After a short period of training, Joseph was transferred to reinforcements of the 35th Battalion. Despite now being in different units, the brothers embarked together from Sydney on the 4th of September 1916, sailing on board the troop ship Port Sydney. Sam and Joseph Turner arrived in England in late October and proceeded to camp to continue training. Sam embarked for the Western Front on the 14th of December and joined his unit in the trenches on Christmas Eve. In January the following year, Joseph joined his unit on the Western Front and began training with his new comrades behind the lines. Early 1917 was marked by the German strategic withdrawal to the fortified Hindenburg Line. Their retreat was eagerly followed by Allied units who seized their opportunity to push the enemy back. In advancing, the Germans, whose units were confronted by well-prepared rearguard defences and booby-trapped towns, which resulted in a series of bloody clashes. Having taken part in the recent advance, Sam's unit was ordered to attack the enemy positions and capture the French village of Douanier. The attack took place on the 2nd of April 1917, the morning of Sam Turner's 30th birthday. Shortly after beginning the pre-dawn advance, the unit's position was given away by a barking dog. The enemy, now alerted to the attack, began opening fire on Turner and his comrades as they pushed forward. Despite losing the element of surprise, they managed to capture Douanier within a matter of hours. From their new positions in the village, they experienced heavy shelling as the Germans prepared to counterattack. During the enemy's attempts to retake the village, the 55th Battalion suffered heavy casualties. Among the dead was Private Sam Turner. Sam's sister Mabel later received a letter from Private Roderick MacDonald, who wrote, "No doubt you will be surprised to receive this letter, as we are perfect strangers. But as your poor brother Sam was a great friend of mine, I thought it no harm in writing to tell of his sad end. The 55th Battalion was ordered to attack and capture the village, which we did, although we lost a lot of lives in getting there. Sam was with me when we landed in the town, and it was not until 4 p.m. on the 2nd of April that poor Sam met his death. I was just alongside him at the time, digging a trench to get under cover, when a German shell landed just close to us. I was dazed at the time and looked around to only find poor Sam face downward on the ground. I immediately caught hold of him and asked what was the matter, but he never answered. I gave him some of my water, but it was all in vain. He was a good Catholic and a brave soldier, and a better pal I never had. He has a nice grave, which is more than some of our poor boys have. I think it is hard for you and your parents to think that he will never come back, but try and bear it, as he is far better off than we are today." At the time of Sam's death, Joseph Turner had not yet fought his first battle. His battalion was drawn into the fighting in mid-1917 when the focus of Allied operations switched to Ypres sector in Belgium, where Joseph would take part in his first major battle near a small village called Mézine. The battle began in the early hours of the morning of the 7th of June 1917, when 19 mines laid beneath German lines were detonated. The explosion destroyed the enemy's front line, creating hundreds of massive craters, and allowed the Allies to advance on their objectives, almost unopposed. Turner's division encountered some enemy resistance during their advance through Plerkshirt Wood when it was attacked by German Phosgene gas shells, causing some 500 casualties. Despite this setback, the high ground along Mazine Ridge had been successfully taken by 5:30 that morning in a rapid victory. Turner's unit spent the following weeks engaged in training exercises and working parties. On the 26th of July 1917, it returned to the front lines to relieve another battalion. 2 days later, the enemy unleashed a heavy barrage on the 35th Battalion's position before raiding its lines. Though the attack was eventually propelled, the 35th Battalion suffered more than 40 casualties. Among the dead was 25-year-old Joseph Turner. The Turner brothers were buried on the battlefields of the Western Front. Joseph at Bethlehem Farm West Cemetery in Belgium, Sam at Le Becaire Communal Cemetery in France. Their names are listed on the Roll of Honour on my right amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. Their photographs are displayed today beside the pool of reflection. These are just two of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Simon Henry Turner and Private Joseph Turner, who gave their lives for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.